What's going on, guys? What an amazing 2023 draft season. Here's my second 2024 mock draft, and there's a lot of changes. I've already started evaluating some of this class, but the 2023 season will ultimately make the most impact on this draft. This class is absolutely stacked at the moment. I changed up the draft order slightly from the Super Bowl odds, specifically with the top three. I see the Cardinals or the Texans doing slightly better than expected, with CJ Stroud or Kyler making things work slightly more than what's expected. But anyways, here we go. So to start things off, I am going to have the Bucs at 1. That's mainly because of their quarterback and their division. I can easily see them being in last there. They were probably the team that made the least amount of additions, and they need a quarterback badly. So I think Caleb Williams will be the first pick. I don't think that's, fake hype for him. He has all the hype in the world right now, and I think he will in about, 12 months from now. And then the Cardinals, I'm going to keep them at 2 here. And, they're kind of stuck with Kyler right now, but at 2, I think this makes sense. And I think that Marvin Harrison Jr. should be the second pick, if not the first pick, depending on, if the team needs a quarterback or not. So we're going Marvin Harrison Jr. at 2. I'm unbelievably high on him. I think he could be the best prospect in this class over Caleb Williams, and he could be the best wide receiver in the past, decade to come out. So the Colts at 3, it's interesting because I can't see them taking Anthony Richardson this year and then going quarterback next year, but I can very much so see them at 3. I don't see the Colts winning. Even with Anthony Richardson, I think he's going to start, and I don't think he should start. So there's a few prospects at 3 that definitely seem to be blue chip players, franchise changing players. And, if we take a look at the Colts team right here, honestly, at the positions that are, strong in this draft at this point, which would be tackle and tight end, in my opinion. So I'm thinking Joe Alt or Brock Bowers. I think it could be either of these guys. I think they could definitely use one of these. I think even Kool-Aid McKinstry could, have a season to where he's a top 5 pick because, he brings the return part of his game. He's a really good punt returner, and he's also, a good cornerback. So that's like a dual threat. You kind of save that spot for a 53-man roster. You can use that on someone else. But back to the Colts. Like I said, I think they go Anthony Richardson at least for 2 years. So we're not going to go Drake May at 3. And I think this is a very strong possibility. It's talked about that Drake May, should be a top 3 pick, but depending on the draft order makes a big difference in where players go. So I'm not doing trades in this one. Someone could trade up for him, but with Anthony Richardson and with type of game they're going to go, which is more run heavy, I'm going to go Joe Alt at 3. He's 6'8". So he's definitely a franchise tackle. If he has another good season, he deserves to be a top 3 pick. So we'll see about that. He's going to have to protect Sam Hartman this year at Notre Dame. And then the Cardinals up again at 4. I went with Marvin Harrison Jr. at 2. It's an interesting spot here because they need a lot of help. So obviously with free agency, it's going to change a lot with what the team looks like currently. But at the same time, everything's going to change a lot. So I'm going to take a look at their lineups, and we're going to see, they have BJ Ojulari. At the moment, I think, they could definitely use secondary help. And in this spot, if they don't need quarterback, maybe they go another weapon, but they have Zach Ertz. They have DeAndre Hopkins. It looks like they're working in the right direction with him. They have Marquise Brown, and then they have Rondell Moore. So I'm going defense here, and I am going to go Kool-Aid McKinstry. I think he is definitely the number 1 cornerback in this class in what could be a stacked corner class. I'm going to have to rate them, as we go on, which is going to be tough. Obviously, like I said earlier, it depends heavily on the 2023 season, but, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Kalen King, probably top 2. I think with a strong season, Denzel Burke can move himself into the 3rd spot. And then Cooper DeJean and Javon Bullard, I would also put in there. I'm agreeing with this list to a degree. I have not looked at Jason Marshall, Chris Abrams, Drain, or any of these guys too much yet, but I will get to that. Falcons at 5. I think if they're at 5, things did not go well with Desmond Ridder. And that would be surprising to me with, Bijan Robinson and how well their team could be with running the ball. But teams are going to stack the box if it turns into a Derrick Henry situation. So we'll see how that works out, especially in the NFC South. Very interesting division. And I think they need to go Drake May here. If he falls to 5 to the Falcons, that is a franchise altering move. And man, would this suck as a Saints fan if we have to play against Drake May, Caleb Williams, and Bryce Young for the rest of the decade. That would be unbelievably annoying and dreadful. But anyway, with the Raiders at 6, I know they picked Michael Mayer, so I'm not going to go tight end here. I don't think Brock Bowers should be sliding much more than this, and he won't. They went Tyree Wilson. I think that offensive line is an option here. I also think corner is an option here. I think maybe Kalen King, but I like Olamuyiwa Fashanu. I'm going to go with him at 6. And I'm actually very excited for this QB class too. And the reason I bring that up is because if Washington's at 7, things did not work out with Sam Howell. So after Drake May and Caleb Williams, to me, the best quarterback is Quinn Ewers, and I can easily see him being a top 10 pick. I'm a lot higher on him than most people. And I think that this next season is absolutely, huge for him. If he succeeds, he could be a top 10 pick. If he doesn't succeed, he might turn into some other type of situation there. Especially with Arch Manning right behind him, like he kind of has to declare. They want Arch Manning starting, and he wants to start himself. So Quinn Ewers should be declaring, and I think he'll be a top 10 pick. And then we have the Packers at 8. We still have Brock Bowers sliding. I could see the Packers going, quarterback maybe, because if they're at 8, I'm not the biggest fan of Jordan Love, and I think the contract they gave him, offers them the chance to get out of that if it doesn't go right with them. So I had kind of a hard time picking for the Packers here at 8, because if you look at their roster, it doesn't have too many holes, and the places that I'm looking right now would be safety, interior defensive line, and I thought about wide receiver, but I don't think they're going to do it. They never do. And another player that I was looking at that won't happen would be Jeremiah Trotter Jr. I think linebacker's a little too early here, but I think Trotter is definitely top 10 prospect in this draft. I'm probably going to go interior defensive line here. And to me, the best interior defensive lineman, which he's not listed as an interior defensive lineman, is Mason Smith. And I think Mason Smith fits the Packers mold. He's 6'5", so he's by far the biggest defensive interior man in that class. And this, don't get me wrong, this interior defensive line class is absolutely stacked if it ends up like this. Dante Corleone had the best PFF grade out of Cincy, so I'll be able to see him in person. So I'll have the top evaluation on him. And then Ohio State has a potential to at least one of these guys should probably be a first rounder if things work out. And that D-line is stacked at Ohio State, with Michael Hall, Tyleik Williams in the middle, and then Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau on the outside. Someone's got to be a first-round pick there. And then Tyler Davis and Leonard Taylor and Jer'Zhan Newton. I think Jer'Zhan Newton's publicly looked at as the best one, so I think I might agree with that. But I'll come out with a ranking of that eventually. But we have the Titans at 9 here, and to me, this is a Brock Bowers pick. So we're going Brock Bowers there. We're going to give Will Levis, the new quarterback in 2024, a beast of a tight end. They keep Derrick Henry, hopefully. And Will Levis is set up for success there. And they have Treylon Burks, so I like that a lot. And I think Will Levis will prove why he should have been a first-round pick. And then we have the Rams at 10. I think the Rams have a pretty bad roster, but they also do have Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp. And people can't forget that. It's not like those two are going to tank for the Rams, especially with Sean McVay as their head coach. So maybe they're a little bit farther down here, but they're probably looking at best player available here. I need to stop with skipping up on these edge players. I think that 2023 is going to largely change the ranking of these players, because I could see many of these players shooting up. So this is tough for me. But I made a ranking video on edges already. I think I'm going to change it up a little bit. And, I think Todd McShay had a 24 mock draft come out, and he had Dallas Turner going first. I actually think I agree. I'm going to go Dallas Turner if we're looking at how I would rank these edge players, I'm going to put Jared Verse probably at 2. And then from there, you know, it's kind of a free-for-all, but I'm very high on Chop Robinson, and I'm high on Braylon Trice. I'm also high on JT Tuimoloau, but I need to see a little bit more from him. I know he had an insane game against Penn State, and if he can ball out this year, you know, I'm all for him going top 10, top 15. I'm going to put some respect on that ranking video, and I'm going to go Braylon Trice, believe it or not, at 11. I think he has the team around him to have a good season. I liked him last year too. I liked what he put on tape, and I put him at 1 for a reason. I could see Tuimoloau or Chop Robinson shooting up that list too, and then Jared Verse, obviously. So Trice over Verse is probably the most controversial take so far, but you know, it is what it is. And then at 12, so we took an edge for the Bears at 11. If they have back-to-back picks here, look at their lineup here, and on paper, the lineup doesn't look terrible. Their offensive line doesn't look, you know, too bad. I definitely could see corner is what I'm looking at here. They're good on safety. I think linebacker's good, especially who they've signed. I'm going to go cornerback here, and I think it's a good spot for him. So I'm going to go Kalen King. He had an amazing freshman year. We'll see what he does in 2023. But Braylon Trice and Kalen King, with, you know, they picked 2 defensive tackles this year, and they picked Darnell Wright for offense. So Bears are turning things around, and that's if Justin Fields is good. I'm a little skeptical on Justin, but we'll see what he does. So for the Patriots, you know, if you look at their roster, I think their defense looks pretty solid. They got Keon White's not listed here. They got Marte Mapu, who could be hybrid. Gonzalez. Their corners are actually looking pretty good. I'm not a fan of their wide receiver room too much, so I'm going to go wide receiver. And, you know, I watched Bengals 2024 mock draft, and he did this too. And I've also been high on AD Mitchell. And, you know, he has the build. I believe AD Mitchell is... Let's check this. AD Mitchell is 6'4", so he's a little bit taller than some of these guys, except for Johnny Wilson, who's 6'7". But if I was to give you guys a quick little rundown of how I'm gonna rank these wide receivers right now, I'm going Marvin 1. I honestly might go AD Mitchell 2, Egbuka 3, Odunze 4, and then Troy Franklin 5. You know, Xavier Worthy, Johnny Wilson, Malik Neighbors, all could make me, you know, eat my own words, but going AD Mitchell here, I really like his potential. He's made plays whenever he's on the field. He even made a play in spring ball. Like, come on. He's got serious potential, especially with Quinn Ewers as his quarterback. And it's not like losing Bijan on that team is a huge loss. They did get Cedric Baxter. They have some good running backs. I like Texas. So if we have the Giants at 14 and the board's sitting like this, I think Jared Verse has to be the pick. You know, with Wink Martindale, he would love Verse as an edge rusher. And Verse has the potential of going higher than this. And if the Broncos, who finally have a first-round pick here, are at 15, which I could definitely see that being a possibility. Sean Payton's first year. You know, they have a lot of changing things going on in there. And Russell Wilson, I don't know if it was just Nathaniel Hackett. We'll see, but I don't really know if I trust him too much. But if you look at let's check it out. If you look at the Broncos' interior defensive line, and with this draft class at interior defensive line, you know, it's not bad, but it's also not great. So I'm heavily looking there. Maybe, you know, wide receiver, but they did pick up Jerry Jeudy's option, I believe. So definitely looking at interior defensive line. And I think that Jerzon Newton is the pick there. Definitely very high ceiling for Jerzon Newton. And with the Seahawks at 16, I think that their wide receiver group is filled out right now. I like their offensive line, and you know, if there's maybe they would be looking at quarterback here, since they didn't go quarterback in 2023. But with Jeremiah Trotter here being a top 10 pick, still at 16, they honestly need linebacker. They didn't pick up Jordan Brooks 5th year, so he's on a contract year. You know, replace him with Jeremiah Trotter Jr., who is much better prospect, absolute menace at Clemson. And then at 17 with the Steelers, I think they absolutely hit it out the park with their 2023 draft. And I think they could start this draft off by going edge, putting someone across from TJ Watt, who is getting older. I'm going to go with Chop Robinson here. I'm high on him, and I think he's in the situation with that Penn State defense to have an insane 2023 season and be a first-round pick and go as early as... I honestly think there's a chance he could be the top edge rusher off the board, but it's a loaded edge class, so we don't know yet. But at 18 with the Vikings, I think that they need to address safety with Harrison Smith getting up there in age, or at least address secondary. And I am very high on Kalen Bullock. I'm going to go with Kalen Bullock at 18 to them. I think he is very good, free safety. Him and Cameron Kinchens are the better safeties than any safety in the 2023 class. Both deserve to be first round picks. Kalen Bullock coming off the board first with his ability to create turnovers, although Cameron Kinchens is not very far off of him, in my opinion. And then at 19, CJ Stroud, Will Anderson team now. D'Amico Ryans could look to, get his defensive line beefed up, but I think that if Emeka Egbuka is still there, they need, I know they got Nathaniel Tank Dell, but if Egbuka is still there, he's kind of overlooked because of Marvin Harrison, but I think he's pretty good. Pairing him with CJ Stroud, that would be a good pick in my opinion. And then we have the Saints at 20. Infamously like their Ohio State players, I go to UC. I like Ohio State. I'm a Saints fan. I gotta do it. Gotta do it to you guys. If JT Tuimoloau falls to 20, they have Isaiah Foskey. I don't think Peyton Turner's gonna pan out. They get Tuimoloau, replace Cam Jordan. He might retire soon, but I could see him, Tuimoloau. The more the edge, the better. I like that a lot. Two other players that I could see for the Saints there at 20 would be Kinchens, because Marcus May is kind of getting up there in age, as well as Tyrann Mathieu, more so Mathieu than Marcus May. And then I also looked at Denzel Burke for him, who definitely could be a higher pick than where he's fallen to right now. With that being said, the Lions at 21, I can't really find much of a hole on their lineup with what they did in the draft. Their draft was hated on, and I think that the Jahmyr Gibbs pick was definitely bad. I think they could have at least gotten him at 18. And then Jack Campbell to follow that, wasn't the greatest, value. But at the same time, if you look at who they ended up getting, the draft wasn't terrible. Looking at their lineup, I know that some of these players on one-year contracts, especially the corners, I know they got Brian Branch, so I think their safeties are set, especially with Gardner Johnson there too. But at the same time, I also like their offense. So I'm looking at wide receiver, and I'm also looking at cornerback. And with the options here, maybe they go wide receiver, but I really like Denzel Burke. Yes, I did it. I went Ohio State 3 times in a row. I might get hate for that. It is what it is. They have a loaded draft class this year. If you're hating on me for it, then you hate Ohio State, and, it's not my problem. Dolphins at 22. They have a first-round pick finally, too. Got theirs forfeited last year. Talking to Sean Payton too early, I guess. But that's okay, because they're going to be good, and they have their pick this year. And they have an Alabama quarterback who very injury prone, so why don't we pick his Alabama tackle who can protect him, who could definitely go much higher than this. So Tua got his protection now. On to the Ravens at 23. They are also another team I could not find many holes with. However, they did lose some interior pieces. We will once again be going interior defensive line with Michael Hall Jr. I'm high on Michael Hall Jr. I really like his pass rush ability. Watch him play. He's always creating pressure with whoever he's faced up against. I couldn't find him on the field much. He was a little bit inconsistent, but if he can, clean that up and be more consistent with the talent around him, he's definitely a first-round pick in my eyes. And let that Ohio State hate continue. I will take it. And just to prove that I'm not completely biased, Todd McShay also had 5 Ohio State players going in his early mock draft, so it's not complete bias. Plus, I don't go there, so I just know how much talent they have. Anyway, with the Chargers at 24, they have Derwin James. However, Nasir Adderley retired unexpectedly, and Cameron Kinchens is here. I think he's worth the first-round pick. I think he's a free safety. You can put him one safety high and then put Derwin James in the box. I like that a lot. Derwin James is more of the run-stopping safety, in my opinion. And Cameron Kinchens you can put back, who can still, he can fucking hit. So that secondary, the back end becomes a strength. Like that a lot. Cowboys at 25. I'm looking at weapons for them because they didn't really seem to address that position in the 2023 draft. So there's a lot of weapons in this draft still left. I'm clicking QB because I don't know about Dak. There's a lot of questions around him. This next season is going to be big for him. It's also going to be big for Mike McCarthy on whether or not he stays the coach. I don't think that the Cowboys get it done. I know they're going for it. I don't think they get it done. But I'm not going to, replace Dak. He's 29. I just can't do it yet. I kind of want to for Cowboys fans, but we're not doing it there yet. They like flashy picks, and the Bills stole Dalton Kincaid, but there's no tight end I'm going to go here yet. I'm going to actually go with Xavier Worthy. Keep him in Texas. Give Dak Prescott a weapon for once, Put him with CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, Tony Pollard, and that offense has, some potential then. With the Jags at 26, I don't think that they addressed their secondary enough in the 2023 draft. And there's some good corners here. I'm going to go Cooper DeJean for them. And putting him next to Tyson Campbell, I think that's a pretty, solidifies that secondary enough. Bills at 27, they went with Dalton Kincaid in their first round pick last year. Early on, people were mocking Bijan Robinson to them. Obviously didn't fall anywhere near their pick. They ended up picking up Dalton Kincaid. I think that running back is still definitely an option here. They addressed guard with Osiris Torrance and then another guard later on in the draft. I was going to go Cooper Beebe with them here, but I didn't realize that they went guard twice. So I think Cooper Beebe is worthy of a first round pick. Wanted to fit him in here. Just couldn't. Maybe you could fit him in here somewhere, but I don't think the Bills are the team to do that with. I am going to fit a running back into this draft. I don't think this is the one where no running back goes. There's a lot of good running backs here. I'm not going to go TreVeyon Henderson. He still has to prove it to me that he can stay healthy. Blake Corum was tempting, and I might still go Blake Corum, but it's a pretty loaded running back class. I almost honestly like Donovan Edwards more than I like Blake Corum, just because of his build. Blake Corum's 5'9". I think Donovan Edwards is 6'1". So I'm going to go with Rocket Sanders. I think he could go crazy this year. That might be controversial, but honestly, take your pick at running back there. Putting him with a good running back with Josh Allen, Dalton Kincaid now, Stephon Diggs. Keep that offense a strength, and then keep that running game, something that you can use to help the passing game. Chiefs at 28. I believe that after the 2024 season, they can find the replacement with Travis Kelce in Jatavion Sanders. Todd McShay had him going in the first round. I'm going to fit him in there. The Chiefs didn't do it this year. It was thought to be a potential or a possibility with the Chiefs to find the replacement with Travis Kelce. We're going to do it in this draft at 28. And then at 29 with the 49ers, who also finally have a first round pick after the Trey Lance saga. I'm not completely confident that Trent Williams doesn't retire after this 2023-2024 NFL season. And because of that, there's a good tackle sitting here in Kingsley Suamataia, I believe is how you say it. Hopefully he can replace Trent Williams. No one's going to replace Trent Williams. Debatably the best left tackle in the last few years. Let's say he retires. That's a good spot to get Suamataia. And then the Bengals at 30. There's a lot of good prospects here. I really like what they did with addressing secondary with DJ Turner and Jordan Battle. I think it fits their scheme. They still have Cam Taylor-Britt, still have Chidobe Awuzie, Mike Hilton. I assume one of those two will leave. But with that being said, I like what they did on defense. I also like what they did at the end of the draft with the wide receivers, but I also don't think that that's all they can do. I believe they can keep going there. And it's a pretty good wide receiver class, guys. I think it's definitely way better than the 2023 wide receiver class with Marvin Harrison at the top. And I'm going to go wide receiver here. I believe I said Rome Odunze was ranked higher than Troy Franklin in my opinion. But there's something about Troy Franklin and T. Higgins. It's just something about them that seems similar to me. So I'm going to go Troy Franklin to the Bengals. And then with the losing team in the Super Bowl again, which who knows how that's going to play out. It's too early to see. But I'm going to put the Eagles back at 31 because they killed the draft in 2023. I think they put enough talent on that team to replace the talent they lost. And I think they definitely have a good chance at winning the NFC and going back to the Super Bowl. But with this draft, I think they could definitely look to pick up another offensive piece. And I'm going to fit another receiver in here with once again, take your pick, but I'm going to go with Rome Odunze. And just to give the receivers left here some love, you know, these USC wide receivers could go crazy with Caleb Williams. I haven't looked into Jacob Coing too much yet, but I've heard a lot of good things about him. And then obviously Malik Neighbors could ball out at LSU. He had a really good season last season, and he has Jaden Daniels throwing him the ball. Johnny Wilson is absolute monster. He's 6'7", so I'm a little confused with Johnny Wilson. He could be much higher in the draft here, depending on his season. Maybe he, proves me wrong. I want him to prove me wrong because he's a freak. I would love to see him go crazy. But I'm not going to put him in the first round. I don't believe he's very fast, so I think teams are going to value a little bit more speed. So there's some wide receiver talk for you guys. I'm going to make my pick with the Packers after I address some of these players left. I can see more quarterbacks going, but Michael Penix has a good team around him as well as Bo Nix. JJ McCarthy, Jordan Travis, and Shadir Sanders are also potential first-round picks. Shadir Sanders might be the outlier there. Maybe another running back goes. I definitely think more offensive linemen could go here, especially Cooper Beebe. I like him a lot. And then with DBs, I think we got some of the DBs in the first round. Javon Bullard could ball out. Same with Malachi Moore. I don't think they have Terrion Arnold on here. He might be draft eligible. James Williams is a 6'4", 6'5" safety, which is very interesting. Miami has some very solid safeties in the back end of their team there with Cameron Kitchens and James Williams. He could be higher. Some of these interior defensive linemen slid with Tyler Davis, Leonard Taylor, and Tyleik Williams. Also, shout out to Dante Corleone too. I don't think he's going to be a first-round pick, but definitely could be. Couldn't fit everyone into this. That's always how it goes, though, with first-round mock drafts. And then Jack Sawyer, he could also ball out. I think it's going to be him or JT Tuimoloau who decides to pop off this year. And I think these linebackers, we got Jeremiah Trotter. It's a good linebacker class. These are good linebackers, but it's also just a stacked 2024 class in general. You can't fit everyone in. Anyways, with the Packers, I'm going to give them a DB. I'm going to give you guys a few options that I would take here. I would look at Javon Bullard, Malachi Moore, and Andrew Makuba, as well as James Williams. James Williams would be fun having that massive guy in the back end. I'm going to give them Javon Bullard. They've proved they like, Georgia DBs before with Eric Stokes. Malachi Moore could be potential too. They went with HaHa Clinton Dix, in the past. They like their SEC DBs. And before we go, I would also like to give a few mentions out here to players that weren't on the list in the PFF mock draft simulator. Starting with Tyreek Chappelle. Kamari Lassiter was on there, but I'm going to, mention his name. Nehemiah Pritchett was there, or was not there. Ja'Cory Brooks could be up there. Bo Collins could be up there. Will Shipley, Baron Sorrell, who is an edge for Texas. Will Shipley being a running back for Clemson. Corey Foreman, lineman for USC, defensive lineman. Lathan Ransom, safety for Ohio State. And, I had to throw him in there. Justin Flo for Arizona. That's going to be my 2024 NFL mock draft for you guys. Fit a lot of Ohio State players in here. I think it's definitely a possibility. This class is absolutely stacked. I'm very excited for it. And I am looking at getting a face cam, so hopefully you guys see my face soon. And I will be breaking down this class a lot more soon to come, position by position, as well as I'm making my big board this year. Hopefully my analysis for this 2024 class will be much more in-depth as I try and grow my capability as well as my channel. So Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one.